Dr. Mindy here, and on this video I am calling all my menopausal women to listen up. If you are struggling losing weight through the menopause experience and beyond, this is postmenopausal women. I hear you. I know you're struggling with getting those extra weight off. This video is for you. Okay, I'm going to keep it really simple. Here's the first thing to know. When you go through menopause, as estrogen declines, you become more insulin resistant. So it's that downward spiral of estrogen that causes insulin resistance, which is why your old diet that you did at 35 and 25 stops working. Your old tricks stop working. You had estrogen at 35. You had estrogen at 25. You don't have that same estrogen level at 45, 55, 65. So we've got to change your lifestyle, especially around insulin, and make you insulin sensitive again. So that's the first thing. Second thing, it's kind of the sucky part of menopause, is that we get a toxic dump. So when we get a toxic dump, when our hormones after 40 go up and down, all those toxins that have been stored in our tissues, stored in our bones, all the heavy metals, the lead, the mercury, the thallium's what causes the hair to fall out, all of the aluminum, those come out of our tissues and they go up into our brain and they start to affect our moods, right? They start to affect how we think, and then the body, because it's so brilliant, what it does is it stores these new toxins that have been released into your bloodstream as fat. So when we look at unwinding the menopausal weight, we've got to look at making you insulin sensitive and look at detox. And here's how this looks. Let's start with the quick fix. The absolute quick fix right now, today, is to start to apply the principles of the ketogenic diet. I want you to go into the lower carb, ideally for a menopausal woman who's like trying to lose weight, keeping your carbs around 50 grams net carbs is a great place to start, and make sure that your carbs are coming from nature's carbs. So we want them to come from carbs that come out of the earth, not carbs that come out of a food facility. So the processed carbs, even if they're low calorie, if they're low fat, you might have been doing that for years, those are the things that are causing you to be insulin resistant right now. So the quick fix is bring the carbs down and make sure that they're coming from nature's carbs. Okay, the second quick fix is fasting. So I teach fasting variation here. I teach 6 different levels of fasting, everything from 13 hours to 72 hours. Go watch the videos I've done on the 6 variations of fasting. But fasting for menopausal, postmenopausal women, it's like the golden ticket. So if you haven't tried fasting and you're in your menopausal years, now's the time. So go back to learning how to build a fasting lifestyle. Okay, now let's talk about long-term. What do you do long-term? So the short-term is fasting and low-carb ketogenic style eating. The long-term I put in the Menopause Reset. So this book, you can get it on Amazon right now. What was really interesting is you all asked me to write this book, so I wrote it, and so many of you benefited from it. Thank you if you've read it and enjoyed it. Appreciate you. Put it in the comments below, because we are a community here. But here's what I did in this book, is I put 5 lifestyle changes that every woman after 40 should do. And I'm gonna run through those 5 right now. I already gave you 1. You should start fasting. Second, you should learn how to vary and cycle your food choices. So I go into detail in this book. I go into even more detail in Fast Like a Girl. Third, you gotta think about your microbiome. So if you've been on antibiotics, you've been on birth control a lot during your life, when you go into menopause, you have a whole set of bacteria called the estrobolome that breaks estrogen down. So if that's destroyed, you might be making the age-appropriate estrogen, but you're not breaking it down. So we've got to go back and feed our estrobolome. I talk about how to do that in this book. Fourth principle, The toxins you're putting on your face, the toxins you're putting on your body, your beauty products, the toxins in your house, the toxins stored in your body, those are causing you to gain weight. Time to detoxify. Absolute. Now, as you go through menopause or you're in postmenopausal years, detox becomes more important than any other time in your life. And then the fifth one is what Dr. Libby Weaver calls the rushing woman syndrome. I didn't label that, but I sure resonate with it. We've got to start to look at our stress loads. And I'll give you one other bonus one I've been thinking a lot about that isn't in the book, which is working on bringing your circadian rhythm back. So make sure that you're out in the sun, that you're seeing the sunlight midday, you're getting up and seeing a sunrise and sunset, because these blue lights that are showing up and that we're in all day long will also throw off your hormones, and you become more vulnerable to those during menopause. Now, here's what's really interesting. What do you do if you're listening to this and you're 60 years old and you're like, okay, well, I did all that wrong? Well, this is why these principles are so important for women, is that it's not too late to go back and change your lifestyle. When you put the 5 principles that I put in this book into action, even at 65, you regulate estrogen, you regulate progesterone and testosterone, you bring balance back to your hormones. So it's not too late to start to drop weight. We've just got to go back and redo your lifestyle. And that would be my absolute #1 recommendation. Now, if you are 40 and you're like, okay, I don't want that weight gain help now, put these into action right now. I feel like this is the book that every 40-year-old woman should be handed, so that she understands what's coming down the pipeline for her with her hormones. And I made it short and easy to read and simple to apply. So if you're 40, make sure you still have a cycle, or you're perimenopausal and your cycle's like 60, 90 days apart. Make sure that you're applying these 5 principles. Okay. I have sat with so many women over 40 that are struggling to lose weight. Like, I feel you all. And I want to explain to you why that happens. I'm a 52-year-old woman. I can tell you that I was in the best shape of my life at 40. By the time I hit 43, I was packing on weight. I wasn't sleeping, and my mental clarity and just overall energy levels were starting to plummet. And it was because at 40, we have to start to make some dramatic changes in our lifestyle to match the declining estrogen. So check this out, and I really want you to see this, because I listen to so many of you that beat yourself up and you don't understand at 48, at 68, why you gained weight through the menopausal experience. And it really boils down to one hormone, and that's estrogen. Over your life, you get less and less estrogen. Estrogen makes you insulin sensitive. So as estrogen goes down, you become insulin resistant. So what we want to do is find ways to maximize estrogen production. We don't want to tank estrogen production even more. Now, the beautiful thing is, as you learn how to fast and you move through menopause and you get over into the late 50s and 60s, what we typically see is, if you go through menopause in grace, that when you get to postmenopause, you actually don't have those lingering symptoms that a lot of women do have as they have gone through their 40s with not really minding this key hormone. So let me show you what estrogen really wants you to do after 40. So the first thing is, I want you to understand that the major problem after 40 is that you are more insulin resistant. You're going to gain weight more easily. I know it's not fun, but it's part of the deal. Unless we do I'm going to show you the solution here. Your mental clarity might be a little bit off. And this one really fascinates me. And I've talked a lot to several hormone experts on the Resetter podcast, my podcast, about how it takes our brains, as we move through the 40s, it takes our brain time to recalibrate to the loss of estrogen. So we become more reactive to stress. Stress just clicks and kicks in much quicker. So we know that this decline of estrogen is not just a weight gain issue, it can be a brain issue as well. So, knowing that that's the problem, what's the solution? And this is where intermittent fasting, fasting of all types, really comes into play. In the book, I lay out 6 different levels of fasts for you to engage in and practice with. So once you get the book in your hand, you're going to be able to practice all these fasts. But here's what, if we want to bring estrogen back, women, we're never getting her back to this point, by the way. We're never going back to her highest point in our mid-30s, maybe even early 30s. It's going to go down from there. But if we want to maximize her glory, we've got to do more fasting and we've got to do more keto. So if you still have a period, I want you to remember, go back to those other videos. If you're in the perimenopausal years and you still have a period, you want to be fasting, intermittent fasting, at least from day 1 through ovulation day 15. So that's really important. Okay, now here's a couple of things I want to point out to women over 40, is that what are some of the obstacles that we get when we start to try to lose weight over 40? And here's a couple of things we see. First is that we have to pay attention to progesterone as well. And I wrote about this in the Menopause Reset. There are moments that we need to make sure that we're not fasting even 13 to 15 hours and we're not going keto. The other thing that I really want to point out is that for a lot of us, as we go through our 40s, we lose testosterone. And testosterone is our motivating hormone that gets us up to work out. So it's kind of like this weird double-edged sword for women over 40 because as our testosterone goes down, we don't want to work out. But as estrogen goes down, we start gaining more weight. So it's almost like working out isn't our tool for weight loss as we move into our 40s. It's actually fasting is our tool. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle. And all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. Okay. We're just going to go right into it. I know when you're menopausal, many times don't have as much focus, so I'm just going to go right into the meat of what you guys need to know about handling menopause naturally. Here we go. Ready? First thing. At 40, your ovaries start to decline. As they decline, they will have a dramatic effect on 3 hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now, you are never getting these hormones back again. So I apologize. I have a wonderful chapter in my book that I titled, Dear Progesterone, I'm sorry I took you for granted, because that's what I realized is, oh my gosh, I love progesterone, but you're not getting it after 40. So your ovaries start to make this slow decline, and what they do is that they hand over the production of these sex hormones to your adrenal glands. Now, if you are a stressed out, rushing woman, you have been adrenal fatigued for years and years and years, this is going to be a huge problem for you as you go through menopause. So we'll talk about what you can do, but I want you to realize that there is this handoff that's happening and the adrenals are now in charge. By the time you get into that late 40s, early 50s, your adrenals are running the sex hormone show. Okay. Second thing I want you to realize is that a decline in estrogen means an increase in insulin resistance. So these 5 things I'm going to tell you become so relevant once you get over 40 as that estrogen goes down. The habits you used to be able to do at 35 to keep your weight where you wanted it to be don't work so well at 45, and they definitely don't work well at 55. This is why fasting works so well. There needs to be a change in your lifestyle so we can match that decline in estrogen and not get you insulin resistant. So I'll talk about that in a moment. The third thing I want to tell you before I go into the lifestyle changes is if you are adrenal fatigued, now is the moment that you need to support your adrenals. And there's a lot of great ways to do that. So if you're working with a holistic practitioner, lean into some adrenal support. But your adrenals are good. If they're not great, then your progesterone levels will be low. If your progesterone levels are low, you're not going to sleep well, your happiness will be down, and you're going to have trouble calming your body. If your adrenals are fatigued, testosterone is going to be low. That's your motivation, your libido, your ability to build muscle. So, you know, from one organ not doing well can have a huge hormonal consequence for you. So make sure you're supporting your adrenals. Okay, 5 changes you need to make. Are you ready? And I wrote about them in the Menopause Reset. So this book is meant to be one that you could just devour in 48 hours and you can put into action. Here are the 5 things. Okay, first, you got to stop eating all day. We've got to lean into a fasting lifestyle. If you're here on my channel, my guess is you're already trying to figure out how to do that. In the book, I give you steps to go from 0 to being able to fast like a crazy woman, and I mean that with a positive, crazy. In the book, I'm going to show you those steps. Second thing that you need to do, you need to know how to vary your food. Now, this one is tough, I get it, but I want to teach you how to lean into more keto variations. And there are a lot of different styles of keto. There's low keto, where you bring your carbs way down. There is ketobiotic, where you keep your carbs a little higher. Carnivore is a form of keto. There's keto vegetarian. I talk about it all in the book, but if you haven't tried keto, now's the time to try keto, because it will really help you become more insulin sensitive again. But as you guys hopefully know, you also need to have some hormone building feast days where you're leaning into foods that raise progesterone. So knowing when to do keto and throwing keto in, mixing that with some fasts, and then throwing in some hormone feasting days, that is the key to being able to manage almost any menopause symptom. So again, if you're like, what is she talking about? It's in the book or it's in the survival guide. We got everything I could think of to help you through menopause. We put in here and we put in the survival guide. So it's there for you. Okay, just put survival guide in the notes and you'll get the free copy. Okay, third thing, your microbiome. Go back and watch the video that I did on hot flashes. Your microbiome matters, and especially as you move through menopause. So lean into more leafy green vegetables, more vegetables in general. I can't tell you how many of our resetters really struggle with their menopause symptoms, and all they do is add in some vegetables, and now they're breaking down the little bit of estrogen they have. They're breaking it down really efficiently, and the symptoms start to go away. So you're fasting, you're leaning into keto variations, you're feeding your microbiome. The 4th step is that I want you to think about your toxic load. The things you're putting on your skin, what you're putting on your hair, your household cleaners, if you're living in a moldy home, the lead in your water, the amalgam fillings in your mouth, all of this starts to catch up to you when you go through menopause. So first step is look around at your toxic load, and can you bring your toxic load down and start to learn how to detox. Detox becomes more important at menopause than any other time of your life. And then the 5th one, and this is the one I'm still working on. I will tell you that I have not perfected this one. The other 4 I've done really well on, but this one's hard. And it's called Stop the Rushing Woman Syndrome. That is a term that was coined by Dr. Libby Weaver. And in her book, she talks about how our physiology was not meant to go, go, go all the time. So once you move into menopause, you're going to have to be more sensitive to saying no to things. You're going to have to build in some recovery days. You got to slow things down. You can't stay at that same pace. Otherwise, those sex hormones will be tanked. Get out into nature, get out at sunset. I love for menopausal women to walk at sunset because it starts to register that the day is ending. You'll get more melatonin, you'll sleep better. So there's a lot, again, really cool hacks like that on the Menopausal Survival Guide. So if you want a copy of that, just put it in the comments. So those are the 5 things. And guys, I have been, over the last 6 weeks, I've been on podcasts. I have been interacting with our academy. I've been listening to you guys, and I watch the comments. People always put, hey, this stuff works. And I kind of laugh to myself because I'm like, yep, it does work. It works. I didn't just test it on me. We have rolled out these 5 things over hundreds of thousands of menopausal women worldwide, and they work. I know you're struggling to lose weight. it may be your fasting length. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the perfect fasting length to unstick weight loss. In fact, it's such an incredible tool for weight loss. I think you should start with fasting before you change your food to be able to get into that door in for losing weight.